what's missing in how people think about the condition. Very stigmatized. I mean, a bit more so than schizophrenia. People often have silly notions of what it might involve. And I guess it's a matter of educating them on what it involves, taking notes and maybe things like World Wide Web and, getting the information out there that it's not something to be scared about. I think that's really important.
Hello and welcome to Bipolar Talk, the space to discuss all things bipolarity. I'm Clément Baissat, the founder of Upstage, and our mission is to transform our bipolarity into an opportunity. We're lucky today to welcome James Lebas and to talk about basically the new model of bipolarity. He is a psychiatrist and also be part of the team of bipolar people, actually. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm so happy to have you here, James. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm James Lebas, psychiatrist, as you mentioned, and also a sufferer with the condition. And I stopped work the end of 2023 because I was ill at the time, but also to get to work on this project of trying to understand the condition. And that's most of what I'm about at the moment.
Yeah, so that's one of the things which is really interesting is like I found it like, okay, it's a weird opinion, but I think the best psychiatrists usually are bipolar and psychiatrists because you get the double skill and you have the peer helping skills and also you have the medical skills. So what did you learn? Because I think about research and this type of thing, what have you learned so far?
Oh, there's a lot, really, an awful lot. And I'm still working on it, getting my slides and thoughts together. One of the things I learned was about the personality that people with bipolar disorder tend to share. I've called that the FASAD personality, and that includes fear, anxiety, self-esteem, variations, striving for lofty goals, a tendency to addiction, and a tendency sometimes to, of course, depression. I envisage that all linking together with the way many people with bipolar disorder are put together.
Yeah, I also saw that you wrote a book, Beyond Bipolar. So I'm really interested into those research, but it's sometimes difficult to understand all those concepts at once. Maybe you can tell me a bit about, for example, what have you learned for yourself to basically stable yourself, or rehabilitation, I think we say in English. So what have you learned so far and what can you teach to other bipolar people?
Well, I guess one of my quests was to try and understand the condition. And over time, it seems to me that the condition does have meaning. It relates to the individual's relationship with the group, originally in evolution with the clan, and how they feel to be valued or prestige by the clan, by the social group. That seems to me to be a major trigger to bipolar episodes, how that affects self-esteem, internally leading to depression.
And so how did you basically learn about your bipolarity? How were you diagnosed?
Well, I first had an episode when I was 19, and I've been admitted to hospital 4 times since then. And I guess it's been very helpful to be both a psychiatrist who knows about the symptoms and also a sufferer. And I've taken on a process of looking at my own thinking and feeling and relating that to what's in the literature about the condition and trying to marry the two together. So it's neither just one or just the other.
And so were you diagnosed yourself or did you have someone else to diagnose you?
Well, I was admitted to hospital with my first episode. It was very sudden. And so I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist, as it turns out, over in the Philippines, where I was traveling. And they diagnosed me, but it took a number of decades really to get the diagnosis quite right. I had a mixture of psychosis and mood disturbance, and that together made a slightly difficult.
Okay, interesting. Because like Phil, the diagnose for me was it took me 10 years to get the diagnosis. I had my first episode, I was the same as you, as 19 years old. I started with a depression and basically I thought it was just a depression, but it was more than that. And I think like when I got my diagnosis, I was kind of released because I finally understood that I wasn't crazy. It was just a condition. And then it helped me to basically put in place the right things. I take my pills and have a good like wellness, see my psychiatrist, my psychologist, this type of thing. And I wonder what was your basically adventure and how did you felt when you got diagnosed?
Well, I had only brief mania when I was 19, followed by a psychosis, another psychosis when I was 26. But then at the age of 40, I had a lot of mood symptoms, speeding up, slowing down, that sort of thing. And it became more typically manic. I was self-assertive, totally off the beam when I was 40. Yeah. So it did take some time.
And how did you felt when you had the word bipolar close to you? Like, what was the feeling?
Well, it's good to have something that explained the symptoms, I guess, put it in one place.
And what did you do? Like, what was your first reaction? Because you were a psychiatrist, and so you knew the literature. So, what what did you do, and what would you advise people to do when they get their diagnosis?
Everyone is different, really. It takes some time. Guess you've got to talk to your family and friends, talk to your treating doctor, maybe do a bit of research on the net. I think most people are familiar with doing that now. Yeah. Different strokes, different folks, really. I guess I already was a psychiatrist, but what I was tending to do in those days is cover over my symptoms. Like it was a decade between breakdowns on average, and I tended to get well and just put it behind me. It was only when I was a bit older that I managed to talk about it with my friends and understand it from the point of view of my family.
Yeah, acceptance. I think it's the hardest things, at least for me, is
Mhm.
to really like because when you get better and you stop you like you get out of depression, it's like you kind of want it to be like, okay, it's over, I'm good. And
Right.
then it come back and then you're like, oh fuck.
What
You
do I
know what I
do?
mean? Exactly. And then you start to accept that, okay, so maybe I shouldn't go out and drink this much alcohol. Maybe, yeah, I need to go to bed at 10 because otherwise my sleep got bad and all these type of things. And it takes time at least for me, when I accept that, then I basically think I've become a better person because it's a good thing to eat healthy fruit and veggie and to not drink too much alcohol at the end of the day. And everybody could benefit from that.
Yeah, it's so true. I found that, like, I did a PhD in 2015 in this area, and I was working into the night, working in the early hours of the morning, and that was really bad for me, really bad. You've got to learn on your own what aggravates the condition, what makes it better. But I think, yeah, slowing down in the evening, getting to bed at a regular time, and sleeping well, exercising, all those things make a difference.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's simple things. At least for me, is like mainly the sleep. If I can basically make my sleep better, it's usually the most important thing. It's like, is it the same for you or I don't know?
I think so, yeah, yeah. Since I've retired, I'm getting a normal rhythm, and yeah, it's good to slow down and stop in the evenings and leave your worries behind.
Yeah, I love to write. For me, is maybe the thing that help me sleep. It's like before I go to bed, I usually write for like I don't know 20 minutes, even more, and just put my thought on paper,
Yep.
and then I sleep better, you know. And
It's
because
a
you
question of the chicken or the egg, though, isn't it? If the sleep is happening because of the condition or if the sleep is causing the condition. It's really hard to know. It goes round and round in a loop.
what do you think about that?
I think both. Yeah, both.
Can you tell me a bit more about what did you do and what was your study actually?
What was my what?
Yeah, because you did a PhD,
I was
so I guess I just want to know more about it.
I tried so much I could tell you, but I need the slides to do that.
It's okay. We'll just do it afterwards. There's a lot of other things I want to talk about. You talk about something that I I found like impacting this like from shame to healing. Can you tell me a bit more about the concept and think about it as what would you like to tell people who are in this phase of shame? Because I found it myself. It happened to me. I was quite lucky because it wasn't too long. But how how do you think we can cope and do it as fast as possible?
I see what you mean. I mean, shame is a pretty common consequence of having the condition, isn't it? It's an embarrassment, and you may have been witnessed with your disorder at work. You may be ashamed of what you said and what you did with your friends and family. And shame also can be a result of being depressed. Uh, so I guess first and foremost, you'd want to treat the depression first and see what remains. But I think there's a big place for psychotherapy in coping with bipolar, and doesn't directly affect shame, but it may over time make it easy for shame to go away. Shame is a very difficult emotion to have.
Yeah, the psychotherapy for sure. It is like you have to also accept to go through psychotherapy because I feel like, at least for me, you really need to find either a psychiatrist or psychologist where you have a connection and you really want to work for years. And then it helps a lot. Like, how would you, because it's always a question I got, and how do you think is the best way to find the right fit for having a professional help?
Oh, well, I guess it's a matter of trial and error, really, isn't it? You've got to have, I find that psychiatrists might just do the biological treatment, but not the psychological treatment. So you've got to find someone you're comfortable with, seems to be addressing what you're thinking as well as what you're feeling. And you need the time in that space to do that, really. It doesn't happen straight away.
Yeah, it's like I found it for me, the really important part is to have like each of those, have one psychiatrist, one psychologist, and I also have a peer helper. And the fact that I have those three to work on different things,
Mhm.
like acceptance is more with my peer helper. I do my psychotherapy with my psychologist, and it's mainly the medicine and biology with my psychiatrist. And it's like I try to basically record as much as possible the session I had. So I have this kind of gathers of data about what I have, what problem I have. And then
Yep.
I usually talk with the AI and to basically have like action to be made. For example, yesterday I was with my psychologist and I discovered that, yeah, I needed to kind of break up a little bit with France. Like I would say that to see France as a foreigner country, because now my country is Australia, but
Yep.
in a way that if I always try to talk with my friend in France, then I wouldn't make friend here, for example. And it's good. It was a nice conversation, but the fact that I had the record and also the summary and to be able to talk, then it really helped me like get this information into it and to basically implement this information. You just record with whatever tool you want,
Oh, okay. Like,
and then you get a transcript with AI, and then you talk. You basically have a prompt. We're actually starting to build it because I find it more and more useful. So I think we're just gonna give it to the community because, like, most of the time, I feel like when you are a patient, all the person who is taking the note and have the data is not yourself, is your
yes,
psychologist or your
yes.
psychiatrist. At the end of the day, it's you who wants the information and you want to be a bit like improved. So I feel it's important to also have the information yourself.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey to find information and get that to work for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes so much time to understand yourself, to understand like what are the triggers for your phases. Like, can you tell us like what did you do to find the triggers and how do you think basically we can find our triggers?
Quick break. Can you let us a review on Apple Podcasts or the platform of your choice? It really helps us break the stigma around bipolarity. Let's get back to the episode.
Well, like you, I kept notes and tried to look for things in common between the triggers and when I've got sick. Mostly, probably like you, it was depression that was a sign of things being not right. And it seems to be related to disruptions in the way I can achieve my goals, my motivations. If found particularly my relationship with groups, social groups, working groups, etc., was related to how I felt of myself. And so when I felt on the outer, when I felt I wasn't being accepted or acknowledged as much, then my mood was very commonly one of depression. And fortunately, it tended to get better like the next day or so. So it seemed to me that was quite a powerful trigger to how I felt.
Yeah, and like in your book, like Beyond Bipolar, you try to show, which I think is really important, to offer a new perspective because, like, for example, for me, is really part of a journey too, is to show that we can be bipolar and work full time and
Yeah.
basically achieve great things. And it seems like pretty simple for us, but not everybody thinks so. And so, how do you think we can improve that?
Well, I think by this sort of thing, talking about it, sharing the message, getting other people's perspectives on what is going right and what is not going right for them, looking at how people relate to their disorder, trying to see it separate from themselves, yet causing ourselves distress and disability. That is getting a sort of distance from it. I think that's all very important, so-called narrative approach to the disorder.
What do you think people are usually missing into bipolar disorder? Like, what don't they do? They not understand.
I'm sorry?
Most people, like, when they hear about bipolar disorder, they usually, for me, I have a certain opinion, but I want yours. Is like they certainly usually don't understand certain things. It's like they. So, what do you think are the things they're missing most of the time?
You mean what's missing in how people think about the condition? Very stigmatized. I mean, a bit more so than schizophrenia. So, people often have silly notions of what it might involve. And I guess it's a matter of educating them on what it involves and taking notes and maybe things like the World Wide Web and getting the information out there that it's not something to be scared about. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's what you did also with your book.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about, because I'm going to put the link, of course, so people can buy it. But there's like, if you have to explain what you're telling in the book quickly, what would you say? Why should I buy it, for example?
There are very many things in the book that tries to cover, but one of the particular things is how it might have happened in evolution, that we have these crazy illnesses, how we served, how our ancestors served by being bipolar. So the book takes you through that with respect to prestige, that is, as I mentioned, the valuing by the community of the self. It designed a thing called the Tesseract, which isn't much, except that it tries to draw and represent the syndromes we get into a four-dimensional space. And I've taken that on a bit further in developing a bipolar spectrum of the conditions and how they might differ and how they might be the same. I used the metaphor in the book of a Greek legend of the Hydra. When Heracles is told that he's got to take this serpentine beast on, a beast living in a swamp that has a body and 9 heads. So I wanted to get some perspective on the bipolar spectrum that was like that. And it actually married quite well. You can think of a common dimension being bipolarity. I think that's the word you use, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I usually don't like to use bipolar disorder because I found it like trying, as you say, to get out of the shame.
Yeah.
And so if we say it's a disorder, it's like harder to accept. So I'm a big believer in using usually bipolarity, because I found it's more like for sure, I'm sick is like, I wish I wasn't bipolar, to be honest, but I found it's part of myself. And I rather say I'm different and my brain work in a different way
Yep.
more than always saying like I have a disorder. And
Sure. Bipolarity is a term used at Harvard University or their medical clinic, and they see people with the condition, all sorts of conditions, and the key question is how much bipolarity does this person have? As if it's a dimension that broaches with normal experience. And I think that's true. I think mood elevation is something that all people feel at one time or another. A bit of depression, a bit of a down with something happening. But it's just that there's a magnification with the condition, magnification of bipolarity, if you like. And I think that's a better way to think of it. And I talked about the bipolar spectrum. I think it's a matter of bipolarity, how much you have and which face it wears. It might wear a bipolar 2 face, where there's mood swings but no psychosis. Or conversely, it might have psychosis as part of the picture, where you need to think of it slightly differently, but overlapping on a spectrum.
yeah, it's interesting because it's like bipolar 1, bipolar 2, bipolaremia. You have inside bipolar 1, you have different kind of. Can you tell us a little bit about it? I'm really interested.
Within bipolar 1 or?
I'm bipolar 2 personally.
Yep.
So I guess I'm curious about bipolar 2 a bit more.
Well, that's a condition. They've only been pulled apart in the last 20 years. Used to be called manic depressive insanity, originated by Kreplin at the turn of the century. It's only with the DSM that it's been split into two. And I think quite rightly so, really. I think people that have hypomanic and depressive mood swings are a bit different in their constitution than people who have mood swings, often very extreme, and get psychotic. I think that's a different dimension of the conditions. I'll say plural because I think they're a bit different in some respect, but also having a core of bipolarity as well.
Okay, interesting. DSM is like the Bible, and but at the end is like different story also. Is that I have the feeling that we still have so much to learn. It's like we really feel like we are a bit slow in psychiatry. It's like it's not about you or me. It's like the whole thing is a little bit slow, I think.
Yeah, that's right. It's taken an awful long time to get biology to catch up with the clinical presentations of the illness. It's starting to, but it seems to me to be a biology that's a bit opaque. It's not really linked to the condition and linked to the causation of the condition. Yeah, definitely.
So you talk about also the social high and fear of rejection.
Yep.
And the fact that we have more chance to be addicted. It's like I work with this psychiatrist in France, and she told me the data kind of is like we have 4 to 5 more chance to have more addiction in France when we have bipolar. And I don't know what was your research. Can you tell me a bit more about it?
Thank you for asking. That's really good. I think it's very important. And I mean, addiction may be represented in up to 70% of the people. So it's a core element to it. And I think, in fact, bipolar condition is built on addictive pathways, that it is inherently part of the spectrum, beginning, commencing with the personality or the phenotype, then someone that gets mood swings but doesn't quite get manic or depressed, and then addiction, particularly to substance stimulants and alcohol. And after that, I think you start to see things like bipolar depression and bipolar 2. But yes, I think they are built on addictive pathways.
What would be your advice to reduce addiction? Because I found that, at least for me, I was addicted to weed when I was a student, and I feel it's basically like get my bipolarity worse also. And I think I wouldn't have found rehabilitation if I hadn't stopped. And I found it for many people is the same thing. If you cannot fix your addiction, then it's really hard to have rehabilitation. So what do you think if the person listening, if you are listening and you have an addiction, which is okay, I had one, many people had one and they figure it out. But what would be your advice, James?
Well, that's a difficult question. Addictions are often hard to give up, aren't they? Some addictions you can live with, like I'm addicted to coffee, for instance, but I figure that's an addiction I can live with. Addiction to foodstuffs, some particular types, can be much harder to beat. You're also talking about addiction to substances like marijuana and alcohol and that. Well, I think that goes hand in hand with dealing with your bipolar condition and getting some perspective about what is making it worse. So psychotherapy can help with that, and getting the bipolar condition treated as well as possible can let you get a bit of a distance from the addiction. And I mean, there may be many answers to how you beat the addiction. It might be a 12-step model, as in Alcoholics Anonymous, or it may be some sort of behavioral thing you bring in so you avoid the triggers to getting depressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually to find things where, for me at least, to kind of replace my addiction with something else. Like it's way easier because otherwise I will have the craving. So it's like, for example, it's weird, but I feel a little bit when I do meditation, what it does to my brain, it's almost like I smoke a joint. It's like it's really the kind of feeling, and it's nice, you know.
Yeah, the feelings. That's what we're chasing, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think there's an easy answer about addiction. I think different strokes for different folks, really.
No, it's a tough question. Of course, we cannot fix everything, but it's always nice to have your point of view, James. And you talk about also being socially rejected, which
Mhm.
is a fear most of us have, and it's always this question of like, do I talk about my bipolar condition at work or not, and with my friend? And it's quite tough. Same thing. What would you advise to people in this situation? What would you tell them?
I mean, they've got to be comfortable with the degree of disclosure. I didn't talk about my condition or acknowledge it socially for decades, really. I covered over and I went on with my life, and my life was very happy. It is very happy. And that's important, of course. But yeah, I can't prescribe a general thing to do about that. I think if you've got trusted friends, it's okay to talk about it with them, and that's probably important. At the workplace, you perhaps found that hard yourself. Is that right? Yeah.
It really depends. Like from what I figure out is like depending on your manager and the company, sometimes you can actually talk about it. What was it actually? Because you work in the medical field, it's a bit different. Like I had different story, and I wonder what was people thinking about the fact that you are both a psychiatrist and have bipolar condition, how people were reacting to it.
Oh, well, generally they didn't know. I mean, my episodes are pretty discreet and I recover generally quickly, and I'm able to work through depression generally, and that probably makes my mood better. So generally people wouldn't have known, I don't think, until I got sick at 63 and I felt a need to come out into the open. Yeah.
Yeah, so difficult to talk about it when you were, because like I know two other psychiatrists who are bipolar,
Yeah.
and one of them is not talking about it officially. So we talk about it together, but is not talking about it like to outside. And the other one talk about it openly. But sadly, he has a lot of problem with, it's called a doctor order in France. Trying to sometimes say, you're not fit. The guy is totally fit. He can work. But they're just trying to get those little things like, they couldn't accept that he can be a patient and a doctor at the same time, kind of.
Yeah, that's so true. It's to do with what you talk about is the shame or stigma of the condition. And I was lucky; I'd never went to a medical board, but some of my colleagues have. There again, it's very difficult to, as a psychiatrist, to admit to your colleagues that that's what you've got. Really, very difficult. Yeah, and you all feel afraid of the medical board and what they do. They're pretty harsh, really. Here, I don't know about France, but they can be quite harsh.
Yeah, I think it's the same in France. It's like it's like that's the rules and everything. I wanted to talk also about the Tesseract model. I don't know if I pronounced it right.
That's great. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, so you created this model, and can you tell us a little bit and explain for someone who never heard of it?
Okay, we're going to show it later on, aren't we? That makes it much easier.
Let's try it like this, but then we can show it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, the Tesseract is just a space in 4 dimensions, and it includes 4 tasks or endeavors that a person has, branching out from their footprint or phenotype, heading towards social engagement as one axis, heading towards social withdrawal on another axis, and depression being the archetype or the final destination of that melancholic depression that is. Then there's another axis to do with rage, and that is what I've taken from a guy called Panksepp. Was a neurophysiologist, and rage seems to me to pertain to mania. I know I've been in that state, and yeah, crazy. And then there's another axis I've labelled schizotypy, which heads towards schizophrenia. These axes were taken from a guy called Jeffrey Gray: behavioural activation, fear, fight, flight, and fright, and towards depression. Rage, I took from a guy called Panksepp, and then schizotypy I've grabbed from Jeffrey Gray again. As his behavioural inhibition axis. So I've combined axes of other people and put them together and given them a social task leading to an archetype or a condition.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the slide. We'll put them in the link if you're listening to the podcast. Right. Yeah, it's really deep, and that type of thing we can talk about, but I'd be happy maybe to do an online version if you want.
Sure.
So we can share it and more people can discover it. It's like a kind of a global question, but it's important for me. It's kind of the question I always ask at the end of the podcast. It's like, if you had a magic wand, what would you change in the mental health?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? But I think if we could somehow help people getting access to services, try and make them a bit cheaper for people to access, to make access more broad, to educate people with their families, to reduce stigma in the community. Yeah, it's a big ask, but basically it's about getting individuals into good treatment so they get the full maximal response and rehabilitation that they possibly can.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but little by little, and even today we work a little bit on it. So really want to thank you a lot, James, for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me, and I look further opportunities to chat.
To learn more about bipolarity, go to our website, upstage.com, hopestage.com. See you soon.